Kristaps Porzingis is doing a phenomenal job at reinventing his game. After having a tremendous start to his career with the Knicks, KP a few years later went down with a significant knee injury. And after that injury, the Knicks decided to move on from him, and it was pretty clear that the following seasons that KP played, he definitely had some nice moments, but overall he was certainly nowhere near the player that he was in New York. And it was pretty clear that those significant knee injuries really hindered his progression. But at this point early on into the season with the Washington Wizards, it does seem like KP is starting to figure things out and play a lot closer to what he was playing like in New York. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports, I make opinionative NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Kristaps Porzingis was drafted with the number 4 overall selection in the 2015 NBA draft by the New York Knicks. And originally at the time when KP was drafted, many people saw it as a very questionable move. KP coming into the draft was certainly a player that showed certain flashes here and there and certainly had tremendous potential, but he was seen as a project at that time when he was drafted. And typically when you're drafting a player in the top 5, you typically look for players that have potential, of course, but are also somewhat established at this point. So the fact that the Knicks were drafting a guy that in many people's opinions was a project was certainly a questionable move. But early on into KP's rookie season, he shocked everybody by playing extremely well right away, and he proved that he was not a project whatsoever. In his rookie season, KP averaged around 14 points per game on 42% shooting from the field, 7.3 rebounds, and 1.3 assists. Now of course those numbers are certainly good, they're not great, but when you actually watched KP out there, it was pretty clear that this guy had a special type of talent to him. The fact that he was 7'3", but also he had the ability to move as well as he did and was as mobile as he was certainly extremely impressive, and certainly something that was very valuable, especially in the new age NBA. He had a tremendous ability to grab a rebound on one side of the court, dribble the ball up the court by himself, take it all the way down to the other side and dunk over opponents or finish around them with crafty layups. He was extremely athletic and extremely mobile. But besides that, KP had a bunch of different skills offensively. He had a decent post game, I would say. He had a very nice pick and pop game, a nice 3-point jump shot, had the ability to drive to the basket at times, had a pretty nice basketball IQ. On the defensive side of the court, he showed a lot of good things. He was moving his feet pretty well, he was blocking shots at will, he was grabbing rebounds very effectively, and overall on both sides of the court in his rookie season, KP looked very promising. And he certainly proved very early on that he was not a project whatsoever, and he was much better than people gave him credit for. And in his second season with the Knicks, after working on his game throughout that offseason, he improved significantly. That season he averaged 18 points per game on 45% shooting from the field, 7.2 rebounds on 1.5 assists. Now those numbers are of course very good, especially for a player in his second season, and when you watched him out there on the court, it was pretty clear that he was improving significantly. I would say the biggest change from his rookie season to his second season is A, he was certainly getting a much bigger opportunity, but also B, he just looked a lot more polished out there in my opinion. He had a very silky smooth game, he was improving his ball handling ability, which is extremely impressive for someone who's 7'3", but he was also doing a great job at consistently hitting that 3-point jump shot. He was doing a nice job at running the pick and pop, the pick and roll even. He was doing a nice job with that post-up ability, and overall I would just say he looked like a very complete player, also playing great defense once again of course. And after his second season ended with the Knicks, people were just very excited about this guy, because not only was he showing tremendous improvement and just looking extremely impressive out there, but he was also not getting injured all that much whatsoever. And of course, whenever you have a guy that's as lanky as he is and is also 7'3", that's always going to be a concern that's in the back of your mind, because if you start to get injured as a player that's 7'3", it's very difficult to come back from that. So the fact that he was playing very well, he was improving, and he wasn't getting injured all that much certainly gave a lot of Knicks fans a ton of excitement. And the following season after that, during the 2017 season, KP improved his game significantly once again. On the year, he averaged 22 points per game on 44% shooting from the field, 6.6 rebounds on 1.2 assists. Now that season, once again, KP was showing tremendous improvement, just looking a little bit more refined that season than he did the season prior. He added some new moves within his offensive repertoire, he was playing very good defense once again, and overall he just looked phenomenal. He looked like a player that had the potential to be one of the best players in the NBA in the future. But unfortunately, around midway through that season, he ended up going down with a significant knee injury, which turned out to be a torn ACL. And at that point, many Knicks fans and fans around the NBA started to get very concerned about him. Because, okay, a lot of players in the NBA go down with torn ACLs and they do come back from it pretty well, at least most of the players. But as I touched upon before, when you're talking about a guy that's 7'3" like KP is, that's always going to be a concern when you have a significant knee injury like that. How would a player like KP come back from that? And also when you consider that his main ability, or one thing that separates him from a lot of different guys, is the fact that he's so mobile out there. So how would his mobility be affected by this knee injury? But unfortunately, before we ever got to see how he would come back for the Knicks decided to move on from him and traded him to the Dallas Mavericks. And in his first season with the Mavs, I would say he put up pretty good numbers, averaging 20 points per game on 48% shooting from the field, 8.9 rebounds on 1.6 assists. Certainly very good numbers, but once again, he didn't play all that many games. He missed basically half the season, but he was coming back from a significant injury, so people wanted to give him time, which of course is very fair. But in his second season with the Mavs, his numbers went down a little bit, but he was still putting up tremendous numbers, averaging 19 points per game on 45% shooting from the field, 7.7 rebounds on 2 assists per game as well. Now, although his numbers did drop a little bit, as I mentioned, those numbers still are very, very good, but the main concern about KP that season was the fact that he was getting injured a bunch again. On that season, he only played 34 games, and when he was out there, at times he did look like he was still hurting. And during that year's playoffs is really where things went wrong for KP. He was a guy that was clearly concerned about those knee injuries and just getting injured again at all, so all he did during those playoffs was only stay on the perimeter. He basically completely took away every other ability that he had. In terms of his driving and finishing ability, his post-up ability, he didn't use any of it. He was just shooting contested deep three-point jump shots, which of course he wasn't all that efficient with, and he just had a terrible playoff performance that season. And after that performance, his career was at an all-time low, as the Mavs decided to move on from him and he got moved to the Washington Wizards. And after that mid-season trade with the Wizards, he played very well. He averaged 22 points per game on 47% shooting from the field, 8.8 rebounds on 2.9 assists. Just very, very good numbers and certainly a bounce back year. And he was certainly getting right back on the trajectory that he was showing with the New York Knicks. Now, I wouldn't say he was playing as well as he was playing with the Knicks, even though those numbers are very similar, but I would definitely say it's a nice season for him. But the season following that, which is this season with the Wizards, I would say KP is playing some of his best basketball of his career. On the year, he's averaging 22 points per game on 48% shooting from the field, 8.8 rebounds on 2.6 assists as well. And while those numbers are very similar to what he was putting up last year with the Wizards, this season he's showing it in a bigger sample size, and also when you watch him out there in the court, he's definitely utilizing that post-up ability a lot more. And the fact that he's doing that tells you two different things. The first thing that it tells you is he's getting more confidence within his game, which is extremely important. I mentioned this in so many different videos, but confidence is one of the most important things you can have as a player. If you have a ton of confidence, you're probably going to play a lot better than your talent would suggest, but if you don't have any confidence whatsoever, you're probably going to play a lot worse than your talent would suggest. But the other thing that it tells you is he's feeling a lot more healthy out there. And if KP is able to stay healthy throughout the most part of the rest of his career, I do think he has a ton of talent. I think he's proven that, and I do think he has a ton of potential going forward. Now, the question at this point is, could KP continue to play this level of play with the Wizards throughout the rest of this season and also throughout the rest of his career? Well, in my opinion, I definitely think it's very possible, but the main thing that's going to determine how well KP does play for the rest of his career is going to be injuries. Of course, that's something that determines the rest of the career for basically any player in the NBA, but especially for a guy like KP, it's very, very significant. I think if he's able to stay healthy, I do see him as a guy that's just going to improve his game slightly season after season until eventually he turns into into an all-star level guy. I don't see him getting anywhere higher than that, honestly, although I do think he has a skill level to do so. At this point, based upon where his career has gone thus far, I don't see him getting to that level, but I do see him as a borderline all-star type guy. But of course, a player like that is extremely valuable to any team in the NBA, and certainly is not something that's a negative. That would be a phenomenal player for anybody. But overall, I think it is very impressive to see the way KP has moved on from a couple different teams and has really bounced back. But I guess we'll see what happens as time progresses. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think KP could turn into a really good player going forward, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy it, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.